Welcome to this TopShelf Webinar, Turning Data into Dollars, How Data Intelligence is Reshaping Grocery. Here are your hosts.
Hi, Randy Crimmins, Chief Revenue Officer of Mercatus Technologies. Glad to be here today as part of this TopShelf Webinar series.
Yes, Lee Lambeth, Senior Vice President of Retail Operations for Mercatus Technology and former grocer with 30 plus years in grocery retail ops.
So we're going to explore how data is the critical component needed to deliver the digital experience today's shoppers expect, and regional retailers need to be successful. I don't have to tell you that the pace of change in grocery is moving faster than most grocers are able to respond to. The way your customers shop is no longer linear, and the systems that many grocers are using today were built for a very different era. You may be feeling that tension already. More competitive pressure, tighter margins, ever-evolving customer expectations around the digital experience, and underneath all that, you're working with technology that just isn't measuring up. The good news is it's solvable by unifying what matters most to the modern digital experience: your customer data, your engagement, and your commerce offering. In this conversation today, Lee and I are going to walk you through what's changed in the market, where grocers are struggling with, and more importantly, how a connected, customer-first approach is not only possible, but already working for some regional retailers today. And it all starts with one simple truth: grocery shopping is changing.
And that's why we've developed DX Pro as a digital experience platform built to give grocers total control of every digital moment that influences a shopper's path to purchase. This is the all-in-one connected platform that allows grocers to provide the customer-first experience they need to compete. DX Pro does this by bringing together customer data, personalized digital engagement, and commerce and fulfillment all under one platform. The data informs engagement. Engagement creates more sales, and commerce and fulfillment handle it all, allowing grocers to deliver the type of customer experience that grows loyalty and sales.
Let me emphasize something today. There's record adoption to eGrocery, and it's no longer a novelty anymore. It's simply how everyday customers shop. Beyond the sales figures, shoppers are using apps and sites to inform shopping before they actually make an in-store purchase. Modern grocery shoppers don't think in channels anymore. They think in moments. They make decisions based off contextual needs in real time. Instead of, I'm going to do my grocery shopping now, it's, I just realized I'm out of milk. Or can I get that delivered before dinner? Let me check what's on sale before I stop by the store. It's continually evolving with an ever-changing grocery industry that we're in. If we look at some of the recent eGrocery metrics, we see that sales have reached at least $9 billion for 9 straight months. More than 80 million U.S. households placed at least one online grocery order in February of this year. And more than 90% of grocery shoppers participate both online and in-store. These numbers, Randy, really emphasize the fact that eGrocery is here to stay.
You know, if you look at those numbers are astounding, especially the 90% of shoppers both online and in store. And I think if we really think about our situation, we are hybrid shoppers today. You know, we shop both in store and online, but the 90% it's a significant number and shows how the industry and the space is maturing. And I think also we want to look at, what is really driving that growth? And simply put, it's mass retailers. They are prioritizing their investment in their digital experience. And frankly, grocers aren't. Walmart takes more and more market share from regional supermarket chains. They and other mass retailers own their data, they own the journey, and they own the customer relationship. And they would never consider handing over their most valuable assets to third-party platforms that may be easier in the short term, but erode your value in the long term. And that leaves grocers with fragmented systems that can't support a seamless journey that the consumers expect and retailers need to really understand that holistic view of the shopper. Instead, they have more of a transactional view of the relationship with the customer, and that creates missed opportunities that the nationals are taking advantage of. So we see erosion in loyalty, we see churn accelerating, and we see margins shrinking as regionals pour more money into promotion and price. Now, what if technology and the cost to serve was available to all sizes of retailers? What if you could leverage your data to operationalize the experience you want to deliver for your customers? And what if this allowed you to lean into your service first model and go toe to toe with the mass retailers and win? Because you own differentiation. You won't win on price, but you will win on experience. And that's what we're here to unpack today.
So, Randy, what it sounds like you're actually saying is regional grocers need a new model, one that's going to give them control over every digital moment that's shaping the customer's path to purchase, if I'm hearing you correctly.
And this is what DX Pro enables. It's not just a collection of tools. It's a single modular platform that brings everything together: your customer data, your engagement touchpoints, and your commerce engine. What makes it different is how seamlessly it integrates with your existing systems: POS, loyalty, payments. So you don't have to rip and replace. You get one cohesive experience, but you can phase it in on your terms. That flexibility is what allows regional grocers to move from disconnected tools to a connected strategy without adding operational risk.
If I look at this based off that initial setup, what's needed is not just more tools, it's a different model altogether. A connected grocery platform isn't a website, it's not an app, it's not a loyalty program. It's all of these things working together to enable a compelling shopping experience. It's going to build those lasting relationships you're talking about. This is how and why grocers have to stop thinking in terms of transactions and really start thinking in terms of relationships and how to build those long-term lasting relationships. Shifting that focus from a single sale to lifetime value is really going to be critical in this journey. You need to look at interacting and engaging and serving in a way that's going to retain shoppers across every moment of the interaction. Essentially, Randy, you're looking at ways to compete with the bigger retailers that are taking that market share. It's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely, Lee. The ability to unify that experience, to have a platform that allows you to connect all the disparate touch points, the different ways that you can interact with the shopper along their path to purchase, it helps get grocers beyond the transactional, more to the relational, and it unlocks long-term value. And at the beginning and the end, it's really about data. To grow customer value, you have to understand your customer. So you must collect, aggregate, and connect data across every interaction. And we like to say at Mercatus, from impression to transaction, because that really is the holistic understanding of the customer that's necessary to win in today's market. Once you know your customer, you can engage in them in ways that feel personal, timely, and relevant, because that's what drives loyalty. That's what drives incremental sales growth. But it can't end there. The conversion and fulfillment of orders has to happen just as smoothly as the engagement inspiring it. For the customer, that means an effortless checkout process and seamless fulfillment, whether it's curbside or delivery. For the grocer, that means tech that's flexible with multiple payment options and an order management system that ensures accuracy, timeliness, and efficiency. These aren't isolated components. They're all part of an integrated system, a connected system that allows you to deliver the experience all the way from impression to transaction. And because the platform is unified and it's grocer owned and controlled, every insight, every interaction, every sale stays in your ecosystem. And this is an important point. It's what we built our platform at Mercatus to serve for the regional supermarkets. That stays in your ecosystem, not in someone else's.
That's one of the foundational principles behind DX Pro. It's a grocer-owned platform designed so that your data, your customer insights, and your engagement strategy don't get siphoned off by third-party marketplaces. Every action a shopper takes, every clip, every cart, every reorder, feeds back into your ecosystem. That's what enables personalized offers, smarter fulfillment, and ultimately stronger margins. With DX Pro, you're not just delivering a customer-first experience, you're owning the intelligence that powers it.
So what happens when data, engagement, and commerce all work together? The typical grocer has a variety of disjointed systems. There's probably many of you in the audience out there that can relate to that. It's just legacy tech. It's just the way that things have been built over time, cobbled together disparate systems to try and create the experience that you want. But the reality is that's difficult to do. Disconnected systems create disconnected experiences. And so if you look at this chart, which side do you identify with? Is your online experience disconnected from your in-store experience? Are you realizing high customer churn and lower retention? Or more critically, do you even know what your churn rate is and how many of your better shoppers are you retaining? Do you have inefficient order fulfillment and rigid technology that doesn't let you flex to meet the customer the way they want to shop? And are you overly reliant on third-party marketplaces, limiting your ability to personalize the experience because you don't fully control the data? And do you have difficulty scaling your platform as your needs grow and change? So that extensibility to where you want to be next is a critical component to successfully navigating and growing your business as your needs change. This isn't just hypothetical in terms of creating this ideal state. It's already happening for those forward-thinking grocers that are leveraging their data as a foundation to drive engagement, omni-commerce shopping, and simple and easy frictionless fulfillment. So Lee, I'll pass it over to you just to talk more about how this approach is really being effective for retailers.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. Very, very good point you make there. And so I do want to get into a little bit of this topic about why this approach works. And it really begins with focusing on what matters the most. We know factually, Randy, that digital engagement matters. Shoppers who log in actually shop more often and will spend more with you as a retailer. And a unified experience really does matter. Shoppers that are shopping both in-store and online tend to spend more money in annual revenue. So when you combine these, we know that together they have a massive impact on customer and shopper retention. So over the next few slides, we're going to share some of our research and show you why driving digital engagement leads to more revenue, why hybrid shoppers are your most valuable customers, and how personalized offers turn lapsed to returning. So Randy, how about you walk us through that first case study?
Yeah, happy to, Lee. So let's start with engagement, which is really where it begins. Once you have the data and you can operationalize the data, how do you leverage that to engage your shoppers in personally relevant ways that can drive that experience, can drive that extra transaction or that extra item in the basket or in the cart? And what we found to be true is that engagement starts in the digital experience, and driving activation or making logging in a habit is key to realizing sales gains and transaction gains, whether it's in store or it's online. So we looked at a typical retailer, we'll call them retailer A. We analyzed 6 months of customer behavior, grouping shoppers about how often they activated or logged in, whether that was once, a few times, or on a regular basis throughout the study period. The more shoppers logged in, the more they explored offers, the more deals they clipped, and the more emails they opened, the more engaged they were. And that's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You would expect that to some extent. But most importantly, we've seen this consistently over time, that you can drive transactional behavior through engaged digital shoppers. The data on this slide speaks to that. We looked at shoppers logging in more than 4 times a month. On average, they spend 2.6 more times per year. They make 2.5 more trips, and they drive 42% of total sales, an outsized percentage relative to the number of shoppers that we looked at. Heavy users viewed 9 times more offers, clipped 26 more discounts, and opened 130% more emails. So engagement and the cadence and being prescriptive with your engagement is one of the strongest predictors of shopper value and driving incremental growth. And when your platform connects customer data with personalized engagement tools, you can then systematically and prescriptively move shoppers up that engagement ladder.
So let's dive in a little bit into the seamless customer experiences, or as we'll call this, case study number 2. I want to talk a little bit about catering to the hybrid shopper, which is going to unlock more spend. The value of the hybrid shopper is someone who shops both online and in store. For Retailer B, we analyzed loyalty tag purchases across their e-commerce site and the physical stores. Customers were grouped by how they split their activity from 100% in-store to 100% online shopping. In the most valuable segment, to no surprise, the hybrid shopper. Looking at some of the stats of the slide, you notice the hybrid shopper spends about $1.8K per year, which is 50% greater than a traditional shopper. They average around 71 trips a year, which is an increase of 11%. And they spend roughly $63 per in-store visit, or 15% greater than that of the non-hybrid shopper. This proves that digital and physical aren't actually competing. They're very complementary. Giving the shopper the flexibility to move between channels doesn't dilute their value. It's actually going to increase it. So think about how people actually shop. They browse weekly flyers online. They look up products before they head in store. They oftentimes will reorder center store items for pickup. But still, many of these same shoppers will take the time to go in store to choose their own produce. That's hybrid shopping in action. And if the platform's not matching that reality, it's not catering to your most valuable shopper. Randy, I'll turn it back over to you to walk us through case study number 3.
The value of the shopper and really reaching out to those most valuable customers. In this case, and what we're seeing more and more, it's that hybrid consumer. They spend 2 to 3x more than a single channel shopper. So that's a key segment that we want to focus on. The reality is that not all customers are equal currently. Having the data so you can understand kind of where they're at in their journey, and then you can target those shoppers with a prescriptive campaign to try to move them from where they are today to where you'd like them to be, so that you can realize their full potential. When we look at retention of shoppers, there's really nothing more important than retaining your customers. We all know the old adage that it costs you 5 times more to acquire a new customer than it does to retain an existing customer. And it's true. So the ability to retain customers has a significant impact on your bottom line. But the reality is that there are threats to retention around every corner. Fragmented shopping, hyper-competitive marketplace. Everyone is trying to acquire your shoppers, and you have to do everything you can to retain those shoppers. So let's look at what happens when you leverage your customer data to identify an at-risk segment and convert them back to a loyal shopper. So in this case, we'll call it Retailer C. We identified a segment of these at-risk customers, those who hadn't shopped for a specific period of time. They were active previously. They went inactive for a period of time. We ran a controlled campaign with half of the group receiving personalized digital offers, the other half not receiving any. And what we found is that you can win back these shoppers. We saw that 65% returned to shopping within 2 weeks. 90% of redeemers kept continuing to shop for months, and 40% had an increase in basket size. But most importantly, we won back and protected $2 million in sales over the 6-month period through this one program to specifically generate that outcome of winning back and retaining these customers. So $2 million to one campaign has a significant impact on the bottom line.
And this is exactly the kind of outcome DX Pro is built to drive. This campaign wasn't guesswork. It was powered by unified first-party data, orchestrated through our platform, and executed across digital channels that the grocer fully controlled. It's not just that you can target lapsed shoppers. It's that you have the intelligence, the tools, and the ownership to do it precisely and profitably. This is real proof that when you apply data the right way, with the right platform, you don't just get engagement. You get revenue protection. You get loyalty. You get measurable business results.
What is it that makes it a challenge? We've run through some different ways that retailers are winning through prescriptive campaigns and strategies to acquire and retain and win back shoppers. What is the limitation that grocers and some of the obstacles that grocers have in adopting this technology and this approach?
I think a lot of what these case studies actually reveal, Randy, are things that grocery retail already knows. And that extends into having that unified platform as the solution. Grocers know they need to lean into tech to level the playing field with the big retailers, but there are a lot of hindrances in play. So let's maybe kind of unpack a few of those. So let's look at some of the barriers here. The first is cost and limited budgets. It can be costly for retailers to bring in new systems to approach the challenges they're facing. And most retailers don't have unlimited budgets. There's a fixed budget in place, and the cost associated with this can oftentimes be a barrier to providing the unified experience you speak of. The lack of integration, and that really speaks to the knowledge and the how, are oftentimes missing. How do I integrate? What's needed for the integration? Do I have the resources internally, which actually lends itself into the next point? Not enough staff to manage. It's a combination of staff to manage and staff with the right skill set that understands how to take an integration project, stand it up, and turn it into a full-scale operating model. The potential disruption to operations, and I want to spend a little bit of time on this one. Operations likes to follow an SOP or standard operating practice, and they aren't really creatures of change. Once that operating practice is in place, they oftentimes want to continue that wash, rinse, and repeat cycle. So when you introduce new technology to operations, there has to be a compelling reason to ask them to change and adopt to it. And it better be a good reason, right? Because you're going to get some resistance and friction if it doesn't provide value at the operational level. I also think the risk of data breaches or data loss is really becoming problematic in the minds of retailers. Security and PCI compliance is really on the forefront of what retailers are thinking about, and how to protect those potential data breaches is really something that has to be considered in this process. That lack of knowledge or information on the how of the equation, how am I going to do this? What's needed? Who's involved? Where do I go to inform myself of what I'm going to be doing next? Do I have the right partner that can help pull me along in this process? And then the last one that I'm going to mention here, Randy, is that unwillingness to invest in operations. If it's not broken, why do we need to change, right? It's working, it's optimized in current state. So why invest in something that in today's state is not a problem for me as a retailer? Some other challenges, difficult in scaling systems. So you think about pilot programs. Pilots are straightforward. You're usually dealing with 1 to 4 or 5 store locations, but at enterprise level, scaling and rolling this out can be a huge challenge. It takes resources, it takes time, it takes money. There's so many different attributes that come into play here. And you really have to put strategy on how that rollout, or put strategy behind how that rollout's going to look. The number of options that are out there in particular spaces for retailers can be a little bit overwhelming. There are a lot of different providers who promise to provide the best experience possible, and really unpacking who the best providers are in the spaces that you're looking to solve for are really, really critical. You got to make sure that when you lock into one of these providers and that investment you're making, that you've selected the right provider for the option that you're trying to solve for. And then just general inertia. You talk about the tendency to do nothing or remain unchanged. That's one of probably the biggest blockers. Again, I'll just stay in the lane that I'm in. I won't try anything. Maybe it's similar to the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So I think, Randy, when you look at this list, there's a lot of reasons that you can see a retailer would opt not to move forward with technology, but you really got to challenge yourself. Are the risks associated with not moving forward going to prevent you from really controlling the experience with the customer and having that retention you talk so much about?
100%, Lee. If you look at it in terms of opportunity lost, or the cost of not realizing that opportunity, it's significant. I mean, we get change is hard, and you worked in grocery retail for many years. I spent a little time in grocery retail on the other side of the desk. We know how you're drinking from the fire hose all the time, and it's hard to find time to make the transformational change that's necessary. It's difficult. Change is difficult. But really, you don't have a choice. What grocers truly need to compete, especially against the national retailers, as we talked about earlier, the Walmarts of the world that are doubling down on their digital investment. It's not a matter of choice, it's a matter of how you go about doing it. And as you said, the right partner, the right technology. At Mercatus, we purpose-built our platform to help serve the regional supermarkets and give them that ability to transition and transform the way they go to market through their digital platform. Creating that unified experience, it puts the customer in the middle, that enables engagement with the shopper and simplifies the commerce experience, can be a reality for regional supermarkets. They just have to find the right partner and the right technology platform. And the reality is that technology, the cost of technology is going down, as well as there are opportunities to reduce the cost to serve through retail media networks. But you want to stay in control of that experience and the way that you deliver values on your platform. But there's a revenue offset there, or a cost offset that can help you there in terms of your overall technology burden. And it has to include seamless integration capabilities. So you're flexible, that you can bring the applications in that you need to complete that experience. We'd like to think that we have everything in our platform that a retailer would ever need. But the reality is there are going to be some third-party integrations that we need to support for our retail clients. And we built our platform to make it easy to integrate some of those other applications, POS integrations, payment providers, last mile integrations, so that you can create that seamless experience with key components that need to be integrated into the experience. In providing a modular architecture, and a flexible architecture that allows you to integrate with minimal disruption.
We built DX Pro from the ground up to meet grocers where they are, technologically and operationally. Whether you're replacing a legacy loyalty system, streamlining fulfillment, or connecting digital offers to in-store trips, DX Pro's modular architecture lets you adopt at your own pace without disrupting daily operations. It's also integration first. We designed it to plug into your POS, loyalty payment systems, and last mile partners without heavy lifting or custom dev. That means faster time to value and far less friction for your team. It's everything grocers have been asking for. Seamless, scalable, and built for how you actually run your business.
What we've tried to do at Mercatus is really meet the retailer where they are today, and then give them the extensibility to scale to what's next without doing a re-platform, but within their existing platform. That puts you in control of how you want to create the experience, but also how you want to grow it over time. And so really the bottom line is that you can't afford to wait, because you're losing opportunity every day that you delay. Now is the time for change. Now is the time for you to own your digital experience, find the right partner and the right platform to make it happen.
I think what you said is so true. You can't afford to wait, right? There are costs associated to waiting, and those costs are loss of your shoppers, retention. It becomes more and more challenging to hold on to those same shoppers. Again, we know that every day those mass retailers are making that digital shopping experience faster, easier, and more personalized for their customers. We know factually that regional grocers aren't going to win on price. If we continue to wait as a regional player, you're going to feel that impact. What we've been essentially describing throughout the seminar is a platform that's going to give grocers the capability of the mass retailers in terms of CDP, personalized engagement, seamless commerce, and efficient order management systems. But it's built specifically for grocers, and it's built to overcome these hurdles that we've identified today. So once those are overcome, it really does become a simple matter of inertia. Now, there's an old adage that they used to say, build it and they will come. But I think if you look at it in today's industry and you were to update that adage, maybe it's really build it right and they will come and they will stay with you. So think about how that data is going to lean into building it right, helping the growth and the retention of those customers and those shoppers over time. And I think when you look at that, it goes back to the question or the statement, this is why you can't afford to wait.
And really, the transformation doesn't have to be disruptive. It's about making smart, strategic improvements that you control on your terms. But if you believe that first-party data is an essential strategic asset to your business, then you have to consider what we're talking about today and what we're going through in terms of transforming your digital experience. If you believe that engagement can drive retention and can create revenue and growth opportunity, if you believe that a seamless experience builds customer loyalty, and that being more efficient in the entire process from impression to transaction can help protect your margins, and that you need a flexible platform that will enable your ability to scale and grow long term. If those things resonate with you as a regional supermarket, then you have no choice but to act. You need to act today to create the unified experience that your customers expect and that you need to compete effectively in today's marketplace. So, Lee, what are the steps to get there? I mean, how do you start to break it down? We've got these barriers. We know there's this opportunity. We get the head nods in the room that say, yes, this is what we need to do. How do you start?
Yeah, Randy, let me say this. I think shoppers are ready, right? Walmart's already reacting. And the question that I would pose to any retailer is this: will your platform be what brings them back or what pushes them away? Let me say that again. Will your platform be what brings them back or what pushes them away? If you look at this almost to an action plan, if you will, what needs to actually happen? The first thing, number one, identify your current digital strategy and where it's falling short. Once you understand where the gaps are, you can begin to react. Number two, you've got to bridge those gaps with a digital experience platform that's built on data. You own the data, you own the customer, you know where those pitfalls are. And number three, prioritize that digital investment and watch as your business begins to transform. And maybe an example of what we think at Mercatus those transformations and outcomes look like. Let me give you a couple of examples. You're going to see personalized journeys powered by real-time recommendations, a higher conversion and loyalty through targeted offers and contextual promotions. You'll begin to generate new revenue from sponsored campaigns run across your first-party channels. You'll see those operational gains, Randy, that you talked about from that flexible fulfillment and self-managed integrations. And then more importantly, out of all this, kind of the tagline, if you will, you'll see sustainable growth driven by shopper lifetime value. And it's not marketplace dependent. It's your growth, it's the shopper's lifetime value increasing, and it's not driven by a third party.
This is where DX Pro becomes the obvious answer. You don't need to rip and replace your stack. You don't need a full IT team. All you need is a platform that connects your data, drives real engagement, and makes commerce smoother without creating chaos behind the scenes. It's already helping regional grocers turn fragmented systems into unified strategies and turning everyday shoppers into long-term loyalists.
Here's what I'll leave you with from my perspective. If you own your customer experience as a retailer, then you control your future.
Thinking about the discussion today, I've really enjoyed kind of breaking this down with you. And, if you don't remember anything else about this presentation today, please remember this, that regional supermarket chains can't afford to let mass retailers continue to widen that sales gap. It's real. Legacy platforms aren't going to get you there. They're not going to give you the control you need over your digital experience to compete effectively today. And you need a solution that connects customer data to personalized engagement and engagement to transaction, be it online or in store. And if it's online, you need seamless commerce and efficient fulfillment to drive more satisfaction, to get them back in the store because they've had a great experience and repeat the process. And with a customer-first approach, putting customer in the middle, you're capturing that data, you're understanding shoppers holistically, because your ability to activate your data for insights that you can then operationalize within the experience is key to transforming the way you go to market and how effective you are with today's consumer in terms of delivering their expectation and competing effectively against the mass retailers. Again, keep in mind impression to transaction. That's the holistic understanding of the shopper. And it's what your platform should be delivering for you, as well as controlling all those touch points in between. That's your opportunity. And that's how grocers compete. Own your data, control the customer experience, grow your business on your terms. Now's the time to act. So Lee, thanks for joining me on the discussion today. I really appreciate it. All of you out there, thank you for your time. We look forward to more discussions.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this TopShelf webinar, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Mercatus Technologies, follow us on LinkedIn, or reach out to us directly at marketing@mercatus.com. Links in the description.